I want to ask about what your expectations are in terms of deliverables. Is that the trip about deliverables or more about the relationship and the mending with China?
I think the relationship, look, the relationship at a commercial level, it has never been better. The people-to-people relationship, the trading, the literally thousands of supply chains is very strong. Of course, at a political level, there's been some ups and downs, there's been tension, and I think that's stabilised pretty well. You've got to keep on the job. So I think he has to keep maintaining a strong contact with China to make sure that at a political level we can keep things reasonably stabilised. Of course, there'll always be differences. We've got different types of governments, so there'll be differences there. But as I say, at the commercial level, it's never, ever been stronger. And I think the other thing that our Prime Minister has to do, and it's even more important, is to look to continue to review and upgrade the free trade agreement, which I had the privilege to negotiate 10 years ago. But there's a lot's happened in 10 years. So there's now, it's important because we've gone from $98 billion trade 10 years ago to $330 billion last year. So the chapter has been enormously successful, but you have to keep reviewing it because things have happened. There's so much innovation, changes in standards, all sorts of things, the US position on trade. These things need to be factored into that agreement, free trade agreement we've got with one another, which has been hugely successful.
We've heard from Albanese talking about addressing global excess steel capacity. He was credited with reestablishing the relationship with China after many different types of trading exports were banned or stopped in China for a number of years. Now that there's some stability that has resumed, what would be the priority for Australia?
Well, exports weren't stopped. We had a series of illegal sanctions. We signed an agreement 10 years ago which said no increase in tariffs, in fact, the progressive removal. Now, for some 3 or 4 years, certain products we had sanctions on us. In my view, they're illegal sanctions, but the trade kept, ironically, the trade kept moving even greater than it had been all through that. But let's not have another set of illegal sanctions. We've got illegal sanctions now coming from the US after a 20-year free trade agreement with the United States. We've now got 10% tariff across all our goods, even though Australia buys nearly twice as much from the US as the US buys from Australia. So, we're getting hit on every front. The Chinese one has now returned to normal, and in fact, it's an amazing contributor to our quality of life, and we have to maintain that as best we can, maintain stable relationships. I think our big challenge, given the problems between China and the Americans, I think our big challenge is to maintain working relationships with both China and the United States. That's not going to be easy because we're being coerced on both fronts, to do something that we don't want to do. We've got to maintain our sovereignty. We can't be blackmailed into all sorts of actions that others want. But we need to maintain a strong working relationship with both China and the United States.
Yeah, these being the world's two largest economies, I want to ask you about that a little bit more. In maintaining, let's first talk about China-Australia. What are the biggest differences between your two countries? Would it be defense? Would it be human rights? What would be on your list?
Well, one of the problems is people focus on the differences. Often there's a preoccupation with differences. And of course we've got some differences on things like human rights. But we've also got you've got to focus a lot as well on the things that are common to us. Our two economies are extraordinarily complementary. What we do well, China needs, and what China does well, we need. Now we have to maintain relationships so we can capitalise on those two characteristics, which mean we should be trading strongly with one another. We are. It's our biggest trading partner. In fact, we're China's fifth biggest. It's the biggest trading partner of 150 countries, but we're their fifth. So it shows that we are important to one another. And when you've got that sort of situation, our biggest ethnic group in Australia are Chinese Australians. We've got so much that we can work on in terms of the positives between our relationship, and that then gives you an opportunity to talk about, not necessarily all over the press, but the disagreements we have on human rights, on any other issues. We need to address them, of course, but let's do it in a way which doesn't compromise the great strengths that we've got between our two countries.